Moh, and you guys might remember him as the guy who played Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino film. And Mike Moh actually has a video game that has just been released. It's Shadow Warrior 3, and he's doing this great thing where he's going to give away 2 of those video game promo codes for free. So that means you can play the video game and download it completely for free. But you have to watch to the end of the show to be able to hear how. What is up, all you beautiful people out in beautiful people land? I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsor and the people who help run the damn show, Kill Clip. Thank you so much because you're delicious and you pay me. And I appreciate that, both of those things. My guest today, martial artist for a very long time, actually has a very extensive resume, and I'm excited to talk about that, mainly because of the topics of the show. Mike Moh, what's up, man? How's it going?
Not much, Rob. Great to be on the show. I appreciate you having me on. And I'm excited to discuss some beef, some serious beef. serious beef, because that's what this show's all about, is being super serious and making sure that we're stern and getting right to the point. But funny enough, like I looked up your IMDb, and on your IMDb, of course, it's got all your accolades and stuff like that. But one thing that stuck out was how many martial arts you actually have trained, according to IMDb anyway. So I'm just curious, maybe you can like kind of walk us down like your training and things that you've done throughout the years. I think I know what you're talking about. I think there's like a trivia section, and somebody brought this up to me. It says like Mike has trained in all these styles.
Yeah, it's like
I haven't. That's the thing. Like I haven't. So I've trained extensively in Taekwondo, and then all the other things I've listed, I haven't trained formally. So I don't know who put that. It definitely wasn't me. So hopefully I don't have you come into my school like exposing me as a fraud for not knowing all of those things. I would say, you know, in the past, I've been doing martial arts for over 20 years. So even though I haven't like gone formally through a lot of training channels, through friends, training opportunities, films, projects, different people, I've tasted a lot of different martial arts, but yeah, that trivia, I wouldn't say it's formal training. So I would say that I'm proficient in Taekwondo, and I dabble in many other styles as a student.
That's cool, man. Because yeah, the damn you IMDb for getting our hopes up for all of these masterful styles that you could have been like the man of. But
right.
Martial arts is kind of like that anyway. There's a lot of people who are like black belts or experts on a specific style or martial art. And then, of course, they have supplementary training and other things, especially if you have access, which is always great, you know. And so when you have access to great martial artists in your ether, then it's cool to be able to train with them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that those things are how those things look on paper. You know, like on paper, I trained this. It's like, yeah, but like I did it like twice. Like, why are you making a big deal out of it?
No, I would rather undersell myself. There's a lot of people that'll take one class and say that they're an expert of it. I'm the opposite. I know because I've been doing martial arts for so long, you know, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Like the more we get to feel proficient, the more we realize how much there is in the whole world and how little we actually know. So, you know, I'm a student for life. So.
For sure. Why did you start? I'm just curious. Like I had a backstory, like an origin story. Why did Mike start martial arts?
I was 12 years old, and I think I'd been begging my mom to start Taekwondo for like 2 years, but she was hesitant because she didn't want me like getting hurt, or she didn't want me to like be violent. But man, I was watching Ninja Turtles every single day. And then my dad and I would watch Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan movies. So it was kind of like, Mom, you go to the grocery store every week. The school is right next to the grocery store. So eventually I wore her down, and I started in a little strip mall next to a grocery store, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. And then how did that play into acting? Was that something that you already wanted to do as a child, or was that something that you just kind of fell into?
Yeah, I mean, I think ever since I was a kid, I was kind of like the class clown. I just like craved attention. I don't know. Maybe my parents didn't hug me enough. I'm not sure. I was a class clown, and I like to perform and just be the center of attention. And when I was in high school, I did like the plays and I did the choir, and not even because I wanted to be an actor, but because like that was like my avenue to like talk to girls. So as I got better in martial arts, then I started like, you know, I became a black belt. I did this, I did demo teams. And then eventually it led me to, I met Mike Chat, who hooked me up with an opportunity to work with Jackie Chan in Hong Kong. So that was kind of like my first taste. And then from there, I kind of bit the bug and got bitten by the bug and started taking acting classes. And then I took that same training mentality of martial arts into acting. And there's a lot of similarities. So I kind of fell in love with mixing those two and marrying those two things together.
For sure. Before we get into the actual beef today, I wanted to touch on something you just said. You mentioned Mike Chat. And for a lot of people who are out there, if you're not aware, Mike Chat is somebody who I guess you could say is the founder of XMA. Back in the day when I was going up through the circuit, the NASCA, WACO, NBL circuit, and all that good stuff, Mike Chat was competing at that time. But then eventually he started the evolution of tricking is what it's known as for anyone who doesn't know. But the evolution of tricking at that time was blowing up. And you guys got guys like David Douglas. You had guys like Matt Emig. You had guys like even Anish Sharufa. For anybody who doesn't know, Anish Sharufa was probably one of the most talented dudes on the fucking planet in terms of tricking. He was in the movie Tron, the new one, not the old one. And so like all these guys were developing this almost in itself its own art. And Mike Chat took that and he kind of packaged that and started to kind of make that a thing. And he got a lot of people on their come ups, man. Like he got a lot of people into the industry. Caitlin Deschelle, I do believe, was one of those people. Who else? Whoever Caitlin Deschelle was dating.
Taylor Lautner. Yeah, there's been a lot. He's been super influential in the industry, in the martial arts. And for me, without Mike, I wouldn't be where I am as far as like the entertainment business. So I owe a lot to him. But yeah, I mean, so many martial artists that are in the circuit, like Jeremy Marinas, so many of these guys are going to be like the next Chad Stahelski and David Leach. They're going to be like the next version of those. So coming up, martial artists that are competing, there's a big avenue for you guys in entertainment, on the stunt side, on the action side, on the filmmaking side. So if you're interested, keep pushing, because those are the people that are going to be leading the next generation of action filmmaking.
For sure, man. And I think that that's important. I just wanted to touch on that primarily because people know me as the guy who calls out martial arts frauds. And I get sent all kinds of stuff of people doing acrobatic kicking, people doing Taekwondo, sport karate, things like that. And a lot of people don't know that I started in sport karate. I mean, the first like decade of my career was I was on an international kickboxing team. We full circle. We traveled, did all the NASCA, WACO circuits, NBLs, ISKs, all the circuits. And then as we were doing that, I got to see some of the most talented Daniel Sterling. Daniel Sterling was probably one of the foremost like front runners of creating a lot of techniques that are acrobatic kicks that people do today. And so when I see stuff like that and people kind of downing it, my thought to anybody out there who downs people who do acrobatic kicking or do martial arts for other reasons other than fighting people, you might be 20-0, amateur boxer, amateur kickboxer, amateur, whatever your particular art might be, and undefeated, but you are broke as shit. Meanwhile, people out there that you were laughing at, people you were pointing fingers at, people you were saying are goofy or doing things that are stupid like kata, they're out there making bank, influencing more people to want to join martial arts because of the talent and skill and effort they put into something that you were laughing at. So maybe, just maybe, rather than us pointing fingers at people who don't do this just for fighting, maybe we should take a page out of that book and learn from them and learn how to have a good career and learn how to influence people in a positive way. Just my 2 cents,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And obviously I'm an advocate for being well-rounded. So, even though that's kind of like the avenue I took, like the more extreme, the more performative side, I still spar, I still practice, fighting and all this stuff. And it's really important that you're not just one dimensional. And I've even seen you do some double chucks. So, that's, it's pretty sweet, but
yeah, man, like
it's not just about fighting. How many days do we actually fight in real life, as opposed to, something that we're doing to just build your confidence, be healthy, stay limber, all that good stuff.
For sure. And it's not all about punching people in the face. Although fun, there are other things you can get out of it. So, but speaking of fighting, I want to go into our first part of Beef of the Week, which is past beef, which I'm sure you've had this one come up before, but let's bring up the tail of the tape and let's see what it looks like. Past beef is pretty simple stuff. It's Mike Moh versus Brad Pitt. Mike Moh, I got by the way, I'm not sure if all these statistics are correct. We already learned that one of these is not. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through the Beef of the Week anyway. 38 years old, 5'8", weighed, according to the internet anyway, you weigh 168. Notes that I did get this directly off your IMDb, which we talked about earlier, and it says that you train in Taekwondo, but it also said dabbled. So
okay. Credit. So it is true. All right.
Yeah. So dabbled in all of these things. Thanks, IMDb. When it comes to Brad Pitt, he's 58 years old. And again, if I get any of these incorrect, you can thank the internet, not me. He's a 5'11", roughly 172 pounds, which at this point, I would say probably weighs a little more. Notes, he has had martial arts training. You know, he has been in a lot of movies, and all of those movies that required him to have training, I'm sure that actually probably came in handy. So let's go ahead and talk about it real fast. So clearly we know that you did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino is hands down one of my favorite directors of all time. I really like Tarantino movies. I really like the structure. I like the editing. I like the way that he tells a story. But most of all, I like his dialogue. I think that he writes dialogue better than most anybody on the planet. And there was a part in a movie, in that particular movie, where you and Brad Pitt got at odds. And technically, in the movie, it was written as Bruce Lee versus, I forget the stunt man's name, but the stunt man that was on the movie had like an altercation. And so I actually have that clip real fast. So let's just go ahead and play that clip just so that way we can see what happened, at least in the movie, which will give us an idea of how to analyze you and Brad Pitt in an actual fight. So let's go and roll it. I mean, I wouldn't see that coming. But like, all right, well, that sucks. Did you do that stuff part right? Yeah. See, you know, like, first of all, I don't see this going down the way it was choreographed at all. But I'm curious. So can you kind of walk us through a little bit about how that was and like, you know, performing on set with Brad Pitt and stuff like that? And you just said you were the guy thrown into the car. Yeah.
So let's rewind the tail of the tape. I think it's at 168. That is the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And that was when I played Ryu, but I'm nowhere near that right now. So now to the beef. I mean, you're right about Tarantino, his dialogue. I mean, I've worked with some great people in the industry, but as far as like, as an actor, being able to spew his words, it feels different. And it helps so much with getting into the Bruce character because it just felt, you know, and then there was a lot of controversy regarding, oh, Bruce was never that cocky, blah, 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 all this stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, now that it's been a couple of years, like it's a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a movie. It's not real.
And just to note, like, not to interrupt, but I do want to note, like, another important factor is that movie is based off of a real event, but it doesn't end like the real event ended. So, like, you have to suspend some disbelief with a film. It's not supposed to be. It's not a biopic. It's a reimagination of, you know. Right.
Yeah, and no, that was an amazing experience for me because, you know, Bruce, I looked up to Bruce and just like, I've been trying to imitate Bruce ever since I was 12 or even earlier than that. I think every martial artist has done something Bruce-esque on purpose, and that's a universal. And that goes to show like how immortal Bruce is going to be forever, regardless of what happens in a fake movie.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, that was me in the car. That was me doing all this thing. There's one shot in there that wasn't me. That was the footwork. And I think that's because me and Brad were kind of icing our arms because we were so bruised up from all the training and all that. But yeah, my stunt double, Brian Cartago, he did an amazing job. He helped with all the choreography, helped train me. He helped test all the safety of the stunts. So that way when we actually shot, I felt really safe and I knew exactly what was going on. But yeah, as far as who would win in a fight, I mean, in the movie, everybody says that, oh, Bruce got beat by the stuntman. If you actually watch the movie, we tied.
Yeah,
So
it's
most
a tie.
people are like, how he lost? No, watch the movie. Everybody's getting all inflammatory about something that they didn't
It was
actually.
1-1 on my scorecard by the time it
Exactly.
ended, and then the third round was stopped. So like we
Exactly.
don't know.
Just people outraged about something that they're not watching. But yeah, Brad is legit. He and I had a couple weeks to train, and he picked up a lot of the stuff really quickly, surprisingly. So obviously he's done he's got a huge resume of action films as well. And they said, yeah, Cliff Booth, he's the thing about his character, he's actually killed people in the war with his bare hands. And Tarantino was like, look, the reason why I want Bruce Lee in this movie, because if Cliff Booth can go toe to toe with Bruce Lee, then the audience will know, especially with how the movie ends and how he destroys a bunch of people, like, oh yeah, this guy's dangerous. So Tarantino, he was like saying, like, what better guy to legitimize Cliff than the most badass guy in the world in that time area, Bruce Lee. So a lot of people think he was bagging on Bruce, but at the same time, like, look, it's a movie, and he was actually putting him on a pedestal. Like, look.
Did you get any shit for that? Did people give you shit for that clip? Were they like writing you with any hate
Oh
mail?
yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, the internet's a very toxic place. So I'm getting, all the negative stuff is the loudest, but for the most part, especially as I step back, it's like 90% positive and then 10% of people that are complaining. Of course, there's a very small percentage of people that are like pretty serious, as far as like, but honestly, that was like my first taste of when you do a big movie and Tarantino's involved and he's such a, what's the word? Not controversial, but he won't do like the thing that's safe, right? And that's why people love him. Just like why people love Bruce, because yeah, I thought he was cocky, and that's what I liked about Bruce, because as an Asian kid growing up, we were used to seeing like, emasculated, weak, and nerdy guys as being our representation. So for me, like I think Bruce was cocky, and that's the reason why I loved him so much.
Yeah, and like another thing is like something I found very interesting, not only about the film, but also the writing, but also let's talk about facts. Like Bruce was like a movie star, like ultra celebrity at an extremely young age.
Yep.
And then on top of that, he was in Hollywood in like the 70s. So like, come on, like he'd be just like any other human being who was a celebrity at a young age and Hollywood in the 70s, right? He's going to be probably smoking weed. I do believe, if I remember correctly, I think he was eating it at the time. But, like he'd be doing weed. He'd be hanging out with celebrities and he'd have a little bit of a celebrity attitude. But if Bruce Lee wasn't like he was, which I would say is a line between confident and cocky, there was like this line of he would speak and people would want to hear what he had to say because he came off with such confidence with the words that he said. There was no stuttering when he spoke. There was very much, he knew exactly what he was going to say when he was going to say it. And people were always looking for the quote. They're like, Bruce Lee's going to say some shit that's going to inspire me today. I'm watching this interview, And so, who gives a shit if he had some flaws? Who fucking cares? In my opinion, we all have flaws. And so when people go back and they start picking at things like, for instance, this particular film, or which is more a caricature of Bruce Lee at the end of the day. But whenever you look at Bruce Lee and how he presented himself to the world, he did that in such a way that was so impactful that changed so many people's lives. Who gives a shit? Like, who really cares if he had flaws? Who really cares if he was cocky? Who really cares? However, the spice that made his soup was put together, it worked. And it inspired hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to want to join martial arts. And for that, I say I appreciate it. But with that said, the past beef is not Bruce Lee versus stuntman, which Cliff Booth, I do believe. The real fight is Mike Moh versus Brad Pitt. So who, like, you've trained Taekwondo very extensively, and I would say Brad Pitt. And by the way, this is not a gotcha, you versus Brad Pitt. Let's say some things about Brad Pitt. This is just a fun fucking dicking around kind of thing. Like, Brad Pitt trains, but I don't know what he's actually formally trained. But, you know, according to the tail of the tape, he is a bigger man than you are. He's a little taller than you are. Like, you know, he's trained martial arts or whatever. I'll ask the question this way. In what style of fight do you think you'd beat Brad Pitt? And in what style of fight do you think Brad Pitt would beat you?
Oh, good question. Man, I think I would win in for sure in a controlled environment, full contact with the referee, you know?
Well, I would assume you'd win a Taekwondo match at least.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think where he might be able to get me because of the size thing is, I don't know, man. I'm pretty scrappy on grappling too. I think I've got Brad, and even if Brad hears this, I don't think he would disagree. I think I could take Brad. You know, he's a tough guy. He's really good as far as picking up fight choreography. But you know, there's a difference between somebody who's trained martial arts their whole life and somebody that just does it for film. So I'm gonna have to say I got it on Brad, but he's got me on so many other levels, and that's fine too. Speaking of which, Bullet Train looks amazing. I can't wait.
It does. It looks fantastic. Like, I'm sure.
But with that being said, Brad, you know, I got you, man. You know,
I'm sure that if and when he actually hears that particular part of the show, that he'll be wiping his tears with $100 bills. Like, oh man, it would just beat me. I think I don't. But let's go and go into the next one, the fantasy beef. Let's go and pull up the tail of the tape and let's get to that particular fight. Let's see what it looks like. So fantasy beef, you actually picked this one, which was Ryu versus Bruce Lee, age 57. Technically, he's 57 years old, according to the web. So he's 5'11", 168 pounds, and he can shoot fireballs from his hands. I give him at least the credit where credit is due. Bruce Lee cannot do that. If Bruce Lee was alive today, he would be 81 years old. He's 5'8", 145 pounds, according to the web. And of course, he founded Jeet Kune Do, and, you know, trained martial arts his entire life, kept extensive diaries and logs of his training and things like that. So let's go ahead and pull it. Let's think what do you got to say about this one? Who do you think's got it and why?
I chose this just because I had the pleasure of playing both of these characters. One obviously not so real, and one very real. But the thing about Bruce is, like we talked about, people look at Bruce as like a superhero. And I think that's why people get upset when they find out any flaws, which, you know, we're all human. So it's like, listen, this guy was a human, and that's, you know, that's to be celebrated. Like, we're not all perfect, and you and me included. So with that being said, the fireball thing out of the hands is quite the ace in the hole. However, if I said that Bruce Lee would lose a match, I would get skewered again. So let's talk about the actual fight, because this is like, if you're a gamer, this is technically like Fei Long versus Ryu.
So, I got you. Okay. Well, you know, let's say hypothetically, just to even the playing field here, I like the avenue you're going. You're saying, let's put him in a video game, and let's say this is a video game fight, and you make Bruce Lee a video game character. What would be his superpower? Like, what would be the thing that he would pull out? Would he also be able to shoot fireballs, or would he have his own thing?
I think he would just be superhuman fast. His speed is unparalleled. Like, I'm not going to kid myself. Like, the things that Bruce was doing in his training, like, I tried to do everything like Bruce, the way he ate, the way he spoke, the way he thought, the way he trained. And man, when it came to what he did in training, I couldn't keep up. So I'm not gonna lie. The guy was pretty close to being superhuman for a human. So his stats would be like speed 10, his strength would be 9. And the only thing I'd give him a 9 for is because of the size thing. But as far as like what he could lift compared to his body weight, it's insane. 2-finger one-handed push-ups. I mean, come on, that's crazy. But yeah, Ryu's got the style, got the beef. He's got the weight, and he's got the magical element. So it's close, man. I think it would be 1-1, and then it'd go to round 3, final round. And man, if I have to do I have to choose?
I mean, just hypothetically, like nothing's concrete. Like, let's say that third round rolls around and all of a sudden, Ryu's busted up, Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee's style is busted up. And then all of a sudden the last fight happens. Boom, ready fight. Who winds up winning? Because I'm a video game fan. Before I did martial arts, video games are my life. And I started when I was 12 as well. So I've been in the industry for like 25 years. So I'm old as shit. But whenever I was a child, before I started martial arts, video games was like the only thing my parents would let me do, because they were worried I'd get hurt in football, baseball, soccer, hockey, all that shit. And, I was born with a cleft palate. So my mom was worried that I'd get hit in the face and that would have to reconstruct and we'd have to do the surgeries again. And then she signed me up for the one thing I'm guaranteed to get hit in the face with.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well,
nice. Yeah.
But I always liked Mortal Kombat as a kid. And I always thought that Liu Kang was like the Bruce Lee of Mortal Kombat. Like that was almost like what seemed to be what their representation of him was in the video game. Right. And so if I thought like Bruce Lee had the same powers as Liu Kang can shoot fireballs as well. He's got the bicycle kick. He's got the flying sidekick. Yeah. And so I think like when you start talking about speed, I don't think Ryu could keep up with that. I think he gets flying sidekick in the face, bicycle kicked across the room, tossed, fireball, and then that's game.
If you're adding the fireball element, I think for sure. Look, and I'm more of the Street Fighter guy because I'm biased and I got to play in that universe. But I think you're right. Like if you add the aura and the spirit and the mind of Bruce Lee with that super element of the fire, I think that's it. Bruce Lee, video game Bruce Lee beats him.
Always. And then,
but if we were to bring Ryu into the human world and this was like a UFC match and he's actually got a Hadouken, I don't think anybody can beat that. That's actually a human. So yeah.
That'd be amazing. Like Rogan's on the mic. All right, you can clearly see he's coming in at about 5'11". All of a sudden the bell rings. It's going to be a great match. And then all of a sudden somebody gets set on fire. They're like, all right, well, that was quick. And then that's it. Like he's going to get a title fight off the bat. No one's going to accept it. And then they're going to have to retire the dude because no one would fight that. Like ever.
No way. So yeah, I hope hopefully I didn't offend too many people again, but yeah, I would have to say video game world, Bruce Lee wins, and we'll just keep it at that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go into the main event, man. Another one. This is one that you actually picked. So let's go and pull up the tail of the tape here real fast, and let's go ahead and check out the main event and let's see what it looks like. So tail of the tape from the main event was Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, this has been a fight that's been in the making, I guess you could say, talking trash back and forth for actually years now. As a matter of fact, Jake Paul did a beef video about a year ago when he was only 2-0, or maybe a little longer than that, but it was roughly around that time. But at the time in the video, he says that he's 2-0 in boxing. And so he was calling out Conor McGregor when he only had 2 professional fights. Jake Paul's 25 years old. He's 6'1", around 191 pounds is what he weighed in last time for his last fight anyway. His walk around's probably like 215, if not more. His reach is about 76 inches. Right now, he is 5-0 in boxing with 4 knockouts to his name. Conor McGregor is 33 years old. He's 5'8", 190 pounds. Reach is 74 inches, so he loses the reach game here. And by the way, the 190 pounds might actually be a little less than he really weighs now because he's been beefing up a lot.
He looks like he's 220 now.
Yeah. Hopefully he's not juicing. That'd be my only problem because like he beefed up quick. So either that's a lot of sandwiches or something else. But his record in boxing is 0-1. But his MMA record is 22 wins and 6 losses. And of course, those 6 losses were to named fighters, guys who are legit at what they do. So let's go and talk about it real fast. Who you got?
So, when Jake Paul did that original shout out or that call out video, our minds as martial artists were like, who is this Jake Paul guy? This is so ridiculous. This is never going to happen. But now I think it will happen. I think it will happen because, listen, I was a big Conor fan before he and I don't want to say because he was losing. I think before he did his proper 12 and he got his mega yacht and all of his money, like he was hungry and he would actually back up his talk. Now,
a lot of talk.
now it just seems like, and look, he's very influential and he's very charismatic and he's very talented, but man, he's just like, there's so much negativity, and now it's just, beating up people in the bars and all this crap. Is just, as a martial artist, it's like, you got to draw a line. Like, look, I teach kids. I can't celebrate a guy like that. Not anymore. I mean, he's not even like backing it up with there's one thing, like if you talk a big gang and you back it up, okay, I get that. But now it's just, and then with Jake Paul, a lot of people hate on Jake Paul, but for me, it's like, look, he's a smart businessman. He knows exactly what he's doing.
For sure.
And look, I've seen him fight, and yeah, he's not fighting like real boxers, but one thing that you cannot deny is he keeps getting better. He keeps getting better. And
I think a lot of people don't know also that he trains his ass off. I mean, he really does. Like if you ever watch the footage of him training, which is not hidden, it's out there for the internet to see. He wrestles as well. He was a wrestler. He's an imposing person. So he's a very large dude. Like he's not a small man. He's a big dude.
He's thick.
Thick with 2 C's and 2 K's. He's thick. But yeah, like he backs up his talk. I think they both trash talk. My thing about Jake Paul is I think that when he started doing his boxing career and he started going into that avenue, people might not know this, but if you actually follow his career, he actually started the idea for fighting based off of joining a slap contest, one of those like slap knockout contests where like 2 people stand there and they just slap the dog piss out of each other, which is the dumbest sport in the history of sports, to be honest. Like, no, I want to be able to move out of the way. No, I don't want you to hit me.
So, you're just asking for brain damage. It's just ridiculous.
You're like the TBI internationals. You're welcome. Hopefully the CTE doesn't kick in too soon and you enjoy the fights. But when it comes down to that particular fight, Dana White over the years has kind of curved his thought process as to how he thinks that would actually happen. At first, it was no way, like never take that kid seriously. But, Jake Paul continues to keep pushing forward. He continues to do things like try to provide his fighters on his cards with good pay. He seems like, even though he's trying to play this Conor McGregor character, the persona that he's trying to put out to the world, at the end of the day, he also seems to be trying to make some type of positive influence or change within the industry. And one of the things I think people really miss about what he's doing is something you said, is his business side. So many fighters think that making money is going to be based off wins and losses, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. You're going to get paid based off of your popularity, the number of asses in the seats, the number of tickets sold, the number of people that want to watch you exist in the world. That's what's going to get you paid as an entertainer. If people don't want to watch you, you will not get paid because your job is entertainer. And when I see a fight like this, Jake Paul has one of his fights was a record number viewing. I think it was like one of the top 10 ever. But Conor McGregor has the top, I think 3 of his fights made the top 10 most popular fights of all time. And so everybody says the McGregor lottery. So whenever you get to fight McGregor, it's like winning the lottery because you're going to get a fat
panty night. Yeah, exactly.
Panty night.
And I can decry his attitude and not being a fan of that. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to watch his next fight because he is an entertainer. And the people that meld that pro wrestling persona with actual skill like these guys have, that's where, you got the bank. And, guys like Colby Covington, I don't believe he's this persona. I think he's smart and he realized he was going to get cut by the UFC. So he became easy to hate. And I think a lot of that is manufactured and it's genius.
For sure.
Genius. I'm sure maybe some of it might be his real personality, but you're right. It's not just about fighting. It's about being bankable, being watchable, being popular. Because especially nowadays with social media and just fan base, you have to have that.
Yeah, if you don't have it, man, he did something that I hope a lot of fighters pay attention to, which is he put a lot of time and effort and energy over years to develop a fan base. And then he started fighting. which is what gave him all this money. What gave him the opportunity to have an audience that's savvy to watch him fight. Whether they're there to watch him get knocked out or win doesn't matter, because they're still paying his bills, right? McGregor did the same thing. He took this persona, whether it's him or not. I might even think that it actually is him at this point. But McGregor took this persona, and then he used that to make himself bankable, because he's a heel. People want to see him lose, but they'll still pay to watch him lose, and so people will pay to watch either one of these fighters. And when you put these two guys together, I will say in a boxing match, after watching McGregor box, I really think that Jake Paul would win in a boxing match.
I agree.
I think in an MMA fight, I don't see Jake Paul winning that. I think that if you're McGregor, you put in a lot of time and effort on leg locks. You shoot in, you start playing a leg lock game that might be something that Jake Paul might not be familiar with. You catch him in a heel hook and the game is over. But that's just my 2 cents. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in a boxing match, I think you're right. I mean, Jake's only getting better as a boxer and Conor's only getting older. So I do think Jake would beat him in a boxing match. It would definitely be closer than the Woodley fight. It would definitely be closer than a lot of his other early fights that he was fighting. Ben Askren, he's a great martial artist, great wrestler. I wouldn't say great martial artist, great fighter, great wrestler. But, I even knew he was going to get knocked out based on just training videos. But
he showed up looking like all he got paid for the fight. He showed up with dad bod.
And that's I'm sure a big part of it. And that's unfortunately the part of life. You do have to pay bills. And if you got a family, why not? He knew that was a risk going in. But as far as the boxing, I think Jake would win in a boxing ring. And yeah, Conor would take him in MMA. Even if he didn't utilize the takedown, the threat of a takedown and elbows and leg kicks and oblique kicks, Conor's too good at that stuff. He would tear his legs up, I think.
He's creative. He's creative in the ring. He'll just do stuff on the fly just to see. But, I think we agree there. Let's go ahead and go to the presser real fast. And I want to go ahead and touch on 2 things real fast, right? So normally during my our tail of the tape and when we're discussing who's fighting who and all that good stuff, I usually have like clips and videos of evidence as to why one would be better than the other, right? And so I didn't do that. I was like just enjoying the conversation, the hypotheticals about Ryu versus Bruce Lee. I thought that was just fun by itself. But I did want to show you something, right? So let's go ahead and pull up this Ryu clip if we can, Herbert. And I know we kind of skipped over it, so hopefully that didn't mess you up any. But I just wanted to toss this in there, and I wanted you to see this little Ryu clip. And you can see Ryu in action and watch how skillful he is here.
Down line, right?
Were you eating
I like how they got the microphones and they're doing the sound effect.
I mean, even when they get hit, a little bit of a slow motion is kind of sweet.
This never gets old. I think I've seen this a few times, but I think it's funnier.
It's just amazing. But it's evidence, as you can clearly see, Ryu's very skillful individual. Look at him, just savage on the mat.
Oh man. Wow. The authenticity of the uniform. That looks like straight from Century Martial Arts, and they just cut the sleeves in a fashion.
But with that said, Bruce Lee might beat him in a balloon making contest. Let's go ahead and play that clip if we can pull that one up, because the little evidence as to Bruce Lee's skills other than fist fighting.
Oh wow. This is Bruce Lie.
the Bruce-ploitation commercial.
Oh boy.
You ever seen those?
I haven't seen them.
Cool.
That's pretty good, actually. That reminds me. Do you know there's a clip out there that people think is real. It's the ping pong with the nunchucks. Have you seen that?
I have, and I've tried to duplicate this, by the way, because you said earlier, like, nunchucks is something that I actually am very good at. And so when it comes down to, like, swinging nunchucks, I can do a lot of things that a lot of people can't. I'm not, like, the best in the world, but it's a skill that I have, a very useless skill 9 times out of 10, but it helps me with my dexterity. Because when I started training gi jiu-jitsu, it started jacking up my fingers because like people would start breaking grips on the gi and stuff, and it started hurting my fingers. And so my dexterity in my hands started kind of going away. My hands would cramp a lot and stuff like that. So I picked up nunchucks again because I started in karate, and nunchucks was the thing that I just did over and over and over again religiously. And I put it down whenever I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I just focused on that, and I kind of left the nunchuck thing alone for a while. And then one day I saw him just sitting on my desk, and I was like, oh, well, let's just play with them and see if I can still do some of the things that I could do before. Then I started to notice that it started to bring the dexterity back in my fingers and my hands. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to keep doing these. But it was one of those things where people kind of like, they'll poke at it a little bit and stuff like, oh, you do nunchucks. It's ridiculous. Like, no, but let's get this straight. No one's going to sit by the guy on the bus who's got nunchucks sticking out his back pocket. All right. That guy is weird. But to do it for fun, to do it for dexterity, or even for just showmanship, I enjoy the hell out of it, you know?
It's fun. Yeah, for sure. Like most of the weapons that we do in any type of traditional martial art, it really is for coordination. It really is for, you know, hitting different muscle groups and all that stuff. Yeah, we're not going to go walk around with nunchucks in our belt, but it is beneficial for strength, flexibility, coordination. And that's what a lot of people that don't understand the traditional aspect or the performative aspect, they don't understand. Oh, well, you couldn't beat somebody up in a fight with that. It's not always the point.
Or like, it's like if I hit you in the head with a stick, it's going to hurt. But would I like finger roll, hand roll, throw in the middle of a fight? No, that's ridiculous. I mean, that'd be cool if I could pull it off, but it's ridiculous. It's never going to happen.
It's cool. It's fun. Yeah, for sure.
I got to say, I really enjoyed having you on the show, man. I really appreciate you being on here. This is the part of the show where we kind of talk a little bit more about what you have going on, what you'd like people to know about, you know, what's going on with you and what do you have coming up?
Well, I'm home right now, but I'm actually in the middle of filming a new movie for Apple. So it's called Ghosted. It's got Chris Evans, Adrian Brody, Ana de Armas, and a bunch of other cool people that haven't been announced yet, but having a great time on that shoot. I get to do a little action, get to act. It's kind of right up my alley, but it's a great script, great director, Dexter Fletcher, who did Rocket Man amongst many other films. He's at the helm, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. What else? I had a video game just come out, Shadow Warrior 3. Speaking of which, if anybody's watching, I'm going to be giving out 2 codes. So if you have an Xbox and you don't have Shadow Warrior 3 and you are going to play it and you want to, I don't know, maybe Rob can figure out the best way for 2 people that are watching the show to grab that from me. What else? Got a bunch of stuff in the projects. Oh, my wife is reminding me I did a movie called 47 Ronin 2, which was in Budapest last year, right before the holidays. And I had a blast filming that movie. That's going to be on Netflix. So sometime this year. So yeah, having fun.
Cool, man. Well, where can people follow you? Like on social media and stuff like that? Where can they see your stuff? Where can they keep up with you?
Mostly on Instagram, at Mike Moh, one word. A little bit active on Twitter, but not. I'm not as active on social media as I used to. I feel like I'm just getting older and older, and I I can't keep up. but yeah, you can find me there. But yeah, follow me there. I'm also on Facebook. I think if you type in Mike Moh, yeah,
sure, you exist somewhere in the ether.
Yeah.
But I end the show the same way every time. I end it with something called the Martial Moment. And I find a little clip that I either found amusing or funny, but also that had to do with some of your martial arts skill or background. And I found this clip and I thought that it was funny the way that the guy reacted to what you did, but also it showed off a lot of your talent and skill that, from what I've seen, you might not have necessarily been able to really show off to the extent that you do in this clip. So let's go ahead and end the show with this note. And as soon as this is over, the show is over. But this is your martial moment.
Let's see what Mike can do right now.
Very sport karate, and I love it.
Yeah. It lends itself well to this Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, let me stretch out a little bit. I think I can get on that. That's incredible, Mike.
All right, as you guys heard, Mike Moh just had a video game released, and he's actually giving away 2 different promo codes for you to be able to play that video game for free. So if you would like a chance at winning one of those 2 promo codes, all you have to do is in the comment sections below, list or write down your favorite part of the show. And then at the end of the week, I'll select 2 of those people and you will get a free promo code to that video game.